Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming all of you guys to Wat Tung. Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is our Pali Canon and English study group where we study the original words of the Buddha, helping you guys to understand the path to enlightenment and how to train your mind to get to the enlightened mental state. What enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It's a permanent mental state that you can attain in this life, where you no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind. You'll notice that there's focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory in the mind because you've uprooted the pollutions of the mind that the Buddha discovered through the training that he provides you. He provides you guidance about how to train your mind. The Buddha's teachings aren't a bunch of beliefs. It's not a bunch of rules or commandments or rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship and things of that nature. The Buddha didn't teach prayer or any of these other kinds of things. So even though you might see some of these things associated with Buddhism, these aren't the actual teachings of the Buddha. When you learn his original teachings, what he's guiding you to be able to do is train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. And when you train your mind this way, not only will you experience the benefits that I already mentioned, but you'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. Right now, you probably have bitterness and harshness and hostility in some of your relationships. And this is coming from your own mind. Oftentimes, people think that this is coming from the other person, where in reality, this is your own mind that's producing that. And you can transform that to get to the point where all your relationships are peaceful and harmonious, that they're really blossoming and that they're at ease. And again, this comes through training of the mind. You can get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood any longer, that the causes and conditions that are producing that have been uprooted and eliminated from the mind. And this comes through learning the teachings of the Buddha, examining them and investigating them, which is what we're going to be doing today. You can then independently verify his teachings, whether they're true or they're false, and then you can practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life in order to train your mind. And what we do to start our classes is we start with some meditation, which is part of the training of the mind. But you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. You need much more than meditation. But I'm going to guide you guys in a meditation session, and then I'll help you to understand what the Pali Canon and English study group is after our meditation. If you'd like to join for meditation, I start with chanting to ease us into the meditation. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. I have these chants on laminated sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to get one if you'd like. You're going to see the chanting that I use, and it has the English translations as well. Yeah, you guys are welcome to help yourself if you'd like to get the chanting sheet. For those of you guys online, these chanting sheets are at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books and go down towards the bottom, and you'll see the daily chanting sheet. That's what we're actually going to be chanting. So during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, they would recite his teachings orally in order to commit them to their memory so that they could then practice the teachings. The ability to write things down didn't exist 2,500 years ago in the region of the world where the Buddha was. So everything he taught was oral, and they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So there isn't anything mystical or magical about these chants. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. You can see from the origins of chanting that it was used purely as a device to help you remember the teachings. So there isn't anything here that you need to believe in. There isn't a rite, a ritual, or ceremony or worship or anything like that. It's not prayer. Today we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation and gratitude and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I think that his students probably created these either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, hey, chant these things to me, because this would be like arrogance and ego. This would be putting yourself above other people. And an individual who's gotten to enlightenment, and surely a Buddha, wouldn't actually be doing that. So if you read the English translations, you'll see that respect in there. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and the sadness sadness and the guilt and the shame and the fear and all these other things, you would probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too, because the Buddha didn't want anything from his students. He didn't expect anything from them. He just helped them out of the kindness of his heart. So if you experience that kind of relationship with someone, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. You'll hear me doing that on the way in and on the way out of the meditation. Once we get into the meditation, I'm going to be providing some guidance. You'll hear me kind of instructing you in the meditation while we're actually doing it. So you'll be learning how to meditate and actually doing it at the exact same time. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet. We're just all meditating together. Everybody here and everyone online will just all be meditating. Now, during this period of quietness, it's not going to be perfect quietness. You can't experience permanent quietness, because that's impossible. You live in an impermanent world. You're going to probably hear a car go past. You might hear someone cough or sneeze. You might hear some birds chirping or some dogs barking or something like this. This is just all impermanence. And as long as your mind isn't craving permanence, then your mind can be completely peaceful and joyful. But if you're craving permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll be frustrated or irritated or annoyed. But that's your own mind causing that. So understand that you will hear things from time to time, and those things are all impermanent. They will arise, they will change, and then they will fade away. So when you're meditating, you're going to hear some things from time to time. And then when we're done with that period of time, we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you understand what the Pali Canon and English study group is. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 individual positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times based on your journey to enlightenment. But I'll give you some guidance on the seated position, because this is oftentimes how people are starting, is in the seated position. It's ideal to get started in the seated position. You could be sitting on the floor or in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like this. You can really sit however you're comfortable. There isn't just one way for everybody to sit, because that's impossible. That would be permanent. But I'll give you some guidance of things that you can consider to help you create some more comfort in the body as you're sitting and getting comfortable for meditation. If you're on the floor, oftentimes people like to have a cushion or more underneath their rear. You're welcome to have as many of those cushions as you like to make yourself comfortable. That'll help kind of soften your seat a bit. And then if you're going to cross your legs, oftentimes people just do that softly or kind of lightly. Whereas if you put them really tight, it'll impede the circulation, and this will cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets their hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and it allows the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If you would like to use this, you could. This could be comfortable for you, but not everyone's going to find this to be comfortable, because that would be permanence. So there's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. And this is the same thing for anybody who's in a chair or a wheelchair or on a sofa. You can sit however you're comfortable. Sometimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, and then you can just put your hands and arms wherever you like. But you can see I'm here in a chair with my legs crossed, so that's an option as well. And then in terms of your upper body, it's helpful if it's erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will keep the mind attentive and alert, and it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. You're welcome to join along, and then I'll come back in with some guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Namasati Satatawa Manusrang Bhoto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะคะวาพุทธังมหาคะวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาคะวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามานุสรังพุทโธภาควาติ All right, if you'd like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone joining us online as well. Nice to see you guys. This is breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a form of meditation that the Buddha used in addition to others in order to move his mind to enlightenment. I'll help you to understand the goals of this meditation and why it's being used when we get into our class today. But before we get into our Pali Canon and English study group, I would like to just share with you that oftentimes people are graduating into this program after they've already taken some of our other introductory or foundational programs. If this is your first time here, which many of you guys I know it is, that's completely fine. You're more than welcome to study here. You'll be able to gain plenty of things out of this particular class. But there's other programs and courses and retreats that are well suited for someone who's just starting out on the path to enlightenment and understanding what the Buddha taught as part of his teachings. In fact, this afternoon at 1 p.m., I'm going to be sharing an introduction to the Teachings of the Buddha course. This is about 3 hours that I'm going to be starting it at 1 p.m. this afternoon. And this is a really great opportunity for people to really just get introduced to the teachings of the Buddha in a very short period of time, because I'm going to explain the teachings of the Buddha from afar, and we're going to go in and we're going to discuss his very first teaching. His very first teaching is called the Four Noble Truths. This is where you understand the problem in the unenlightened mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. In 4 simple statements, you'll be able to independently verify why you experience anger and sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these feelings in others are actually being caused by the same exact thing. Oftentimes people think that what's causing their discontent feelings is something external. But what you can learn through the teachings of the Buddha and independently verify is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And this is why you can eliminate them. Because when you understand what's causing them and you eliminate that cause from the mind, you'll be able to actually make your way to this enlightened mental state where you no longer experience any of those discontent feelings. So if you'd like to attend that course, you're more than welcome to. Everything we do here is available at no cost, whether it's our classes, courses, retreats, our books, our audiobooks, videos, podcasts, even personal guidance and things like that. So that's what's going on this afternoon. On Monday, we're going to be starting the Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment course. It's a 5-day course from 9 to 3 p.m. where you can learn all the foundational teachings that the Buddha taught in order to make your way to enlightenment. We take an 1.5-hour lunch break. Again, you're welcome to come to that. It's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Again, there's no cost for any of the things that we do here. So if you'd like to really get started on the path, these are great opportunities for you to do that. Today, what we're going to be doing is what's called our Pali Canon and English study group. All of our kind of introductory and foundational courses, they're based on this first book. It's called Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is volume 1 of our book series, and you can actually get this for free. You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing cost, or they're on Amazon. So if you have access to Amazon, you can get them there. And what I do in those programs is I go chapter by chapter, helping you guys to understand the foundational teachings of what it takes to be able to move the mind to enlightenment, training your mind. Nothing in the teachings of the Buddha is based in belief. You can actually independently verify his teachings and train your mind. As I was mentioning at the beginning, there are no rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer as part of the teachings of the Buddha. If you've been exposed to those kinds of things and people are saying that those are part of the teachings of the Buddha, you can see through his original words that he never taught any of those things. Those are things that people are adding into his teachings since he taught 2,500 years ago. But what he's teaching you to do is train your mind and cultivate the mind to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. And there's no amount of rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer that's going to help you to be able to train your mind and get to this enlightened mental state. So this first book is a great way to get started. In this Pali Canon and English study group, what we do each Saturday is we study volumes 2 through 13 of the book series. And today we happen to be starting a brand new book of our book series. It's titled The 6 Sense Spaces. This book series is the words of the Buddha, the path to enlightenment, revealing the hidden. When you study with the original words of the Buddha, this is what's going to help you to be able to awaken to enlightenment. But without studying with the original words of the Buddha, you'd have no opportunity to be able to make your way to enlightenment. The original teachings of the Buddha are assembled in 45 large volumes of books that are about this thick. That's what's called the Pali Canon. The Pali, where that comes from, is that's the historical language that the teachings of the Buddha are captured in. Today, it's no longer a spoken language, but that's what the original teachings are captured in. That's the largest, most complete collection of the teachings of the Buddha. What this book series does is it consolidates it into 13 books so that it's more manageable for you to be able to actually read and understand and approach it and actually practice it and experience the real results in your day-to-day life. So we're going to be studying the 6 sense spaces, which I'm going to help you guys to understand what that is when we get started. Now, normally the way that I teach is kind of like a traditional style of learning where I'll teach for like 15, 20, 30 minutes, open up to questions. I'll teach for another 15, 20, 30 minutes, open up for questions. But in this particular program, the way that we do it is I open up to volunteers here at the temple or anybody who's joining us on Zoom that you can volunteer to read one of these chapters if you like. These are the original words of the Buddha. You can see this one, it's only about a half a page, if that. And after somebody reads this chapter, then I will share some teachings on that. Then I'm going to open up to any questions that you guys have so that this way you can see what the Buddha actually taught about the teachings and what it takes for you to get to enlightenment. If you would like to volunteer to read, you're more than welcome to do that here at the temple. We have microphones in the white bowl there. If you get a microphone and press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on. You just hold that up to your chin. We'll be able to hear you here here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you were speaking here without a microphone, they wouldn't be able to hear you online. So it's best if you have a microphone. And then if you have a microphone, you can just keep it with you at your seat, because you might have more than one question or something that you'd like to say, or someone around you might have something, and you can share the microphone with them. And then for anybody who's in Zoom, if you would like to volunteer to read, you can electronically raise your hand in Zoom, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here, and they'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream. And then when we get to the part of questions, again, here at the temple, if you guys could use the microphones, that would be great. And when you're not using them, if you could just turn them off, then we won't get any feedback through the microphones. And then for anyone who's online, if you have questions, you can put it into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. In the comment section, I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand to ask any questions by just unmuting your microphone. So is there anybody here, anybody online that would like to volunteer to read? Okay, it looks like Yusuf online is volunteering. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, David.
Good morning.
The 6 sense bases. Monks, there are these 6 sense bases. What 6? The eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and the body and the mind. When monks, a noble discipline, understands as they really are the gratification, the danger, and the escape in the case of these 6 sense bases, then he is called a noble discipline, who is a supreme enterer, no longer bound to the netherworld, fixed in destination with Nibbana, enlightenment, as his destination.
Okay, thank you, sir. So here, let me help you to understand this. This is the very first chapter in this book called The 6 Sense Bases. If you've ever heard about the Buddha teaching about craving, desire, attachment, or wants or expectations, this is the cause of the mind's discontent feelings. The reason why you get angry, sad, or frustrated, or annoyed, or feeling guilt, or shame, or fear, or stress, or anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, any of those feelings is because of craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. This is the mind longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. And if you get what you want, you will experience happiness. You will get pleasant feelings. You will get excited or elated or thrilled or euphoria. These are called conditioned feelings. Based on some condition, meaning you get what you want, your cravings, desires, attachments are being fulfilled, you will get happy. You will get pleasant feelings. But when you don't get what you want or you don't get what you expect, you will get frustrated or agitated or annoyed. Some painful feeling will come into the mind. This is all occurring because of what's called craving, desire, attachment. This is the mind's longing and yearning. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst. The mind chases and chases and chases. So if you've ever been in the mall and you saw like a brand new pair of shoes or a brand new phone or video game or some kind of article of clothing or jewelry, and you were like, oh, I just got to have that. Oh, I just can't wait to get those shoes on my feet. Oh, it's going to be so awesome. I can't wait to get those shoes. This is the mind longing, yearning. The problem here isn't the shoes, because it would be great to have shoes to walk around. It's the mind longing, yearning for it, basing your inner feelings on those shoes. Now, if you go into the store and they have your size, you'll get so excited. Wow, they got my size. Yes, I can't wait till my friends see this. When I go to work on Monday morning, oh, everybody's going to see my new shoes. This is going to be great. But if you go into the store and they don't have your size, you'll be frustrated. You'll be agitated or annoyed. This is the mind's craving, desire, attachment that's causing this. Because of the mind's longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way, if you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings. But if you don't get what you want, you get the painful feelings. And this is happening in all parts of your life. If you think about your bank account balance, if it's up here really high, you get so excited, you get so elated. But then when it goes down here, you get frustrated or agitated or annoyed. Or if you have a life partner or a boyfriend or girlfriend, when you guys first get together, you're so happy, you're so excited. But then when you guys break up, you're frustrated or agitated or annoyed or feeling lonely or bored or you're missing this person. It's not love that's causing this. It's the mind's craving. The mind is craving permanence. It's wanting to hold on to things permanently. And when you get what you want, like a boyfriend or girlfriend in your life, you might be so happy or excited. But when you don't get what you want, you get frustrated or agitated or annoyed or some other painful feeling. And when we talk about this craving, desire, attachment, it's actually happening through these 6 sense bases. What's happening is the mind is taking in contact through your eyes, your ears, your nose, the tongue, the body, and then there's the mind itself. And when you're taking in contact, if you have agreeable contact, then you will get happy, excited, elated, thrilled, euphoria. Or if you have disagreeable contact, then you will get frustrated, agitated, annoyed, or some other painful feeling. So let me give you an example with the 6 sense bases. Let's just say you're in your car and you're sitting at a traffic light and someone pulls up to you with some music that you particularly like. You're like, all right, that's my jam. Yeah, that's really good. I like that music. All right, let's party, right? You're like kind of dancing in your seat. You're excited. You're happy because you're hearing this music. You're hearing through the ear something that is agreeable to you. But now you pull up to the next traffic light and now someone pulls up to you with a different type of music and you don't like this music. Oh man, you just hate this music and now you get frustrated, you get agitated or annoyed. This is because of what's called sensual desire. The mind is longing, yearning through your sense bases, wanting things to be permanently agreeable. As I mentioned to you, the Buddha's teachings aren't based on belief. They aren't rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. What he's teaching you is why your mind is experiencing these discontent feelings so that then you can train it so that it doesn't do this anymore. Because as long as you have sensual desire, where you're longing, yearning through your sense bases for permanently agreeable contact, you're not going to be able to experience permanently agreeable contact because you live in an impermanent world. You can't always get what you want, what you expect. So as long as your mind is doing this, you will continue to experience agitation, frustration, irritation, annoyance, all these other discontent feelings. So here the Buddha is explaining to you that a noble disciple is someone who studied his teachings very closely, understands they really are the gratification, danger, and escape in terms of the 6 sense bases. The gratification is that the mind is longing, yearning through its central desire, through these sense bases, wanting things to be permanently agreeable to you. The mind wants those pleasant feelings. So you chase and chase and chase. You'll maybe chase more money. You'll chase a bigger car. You'll chase a bigger house. You'll chase more friends. You'll chase this thing or that thing. The mind will just long and yearn and chase and chase and chase, and it'll try to base its inner feelings on whether you get this thing or not. And if you get it, you'll have gratification. But if you don't get it, then you'll get this frustration or agitation or annoyance. So the central desire in the mind is looking for this gratification. It wants things to be permanently agreeable. But then the danger in that is that if you allow the mind to keep doing that, in some situations, you're going to get what you want and you're going to be so happy and so excited. But then when that changes, you're going to be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. You're going to get painful feelings. So if you allow your mind to keep having this longing, yearning, where it's chasing after things, in some situations, you're going to get pleasant feelings, but in other situations, you're going to get painful feelings. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside and you get so excited, yes, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go hiking. This is going to be so fun. I'm going to go out on the trail. I'm going to spend time with my friends. This is going to be a great time. Well, now if you go take a shower and you come outside and it's raining, you'll be frustrated. You'll be agitated or annoyed because you allowed your mind to get so happy and excited because of the sun. You're now basing your inner feelings on the sun. The sun is not permanent. So that means your happiness is not permanent. This is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness in your life, because your mind is basing its inner feelings on something that is not permanent. So if you base your inner feelings on something that is not permanent, then that means your happiness is not permanent. It's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. So if you get so happy when your bank account balance is up here, it's only a matter of time before your bank goes down here. And now you're frustrated or agitated or annoyed. That's the danger of allowing your mind to continue to chase after this gratification. Your mind's going to go up and down and up and down and up and down. But what the Buddha shares with you is that there is an escape. The escape is to train your mind through the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the core central teaching that is going to guide you and how to transform your mind so that it no longer bases its inner feelings on these impermanent conditions, that you can be inwardly peaceful, you can be inwardly joyful. Instead of having conditional happiness, where your happiness is based on some condition, which is ultimately going to change, so therefore you're going to end up in the painful feelings, you can train your mind to have unconditional happiness, where the mind is just always happy. But you need to understand what that is and how to do that. And that's what the Buddha is saying here, is that someone who studied his teachings very closely, a noble disciple, understands the gratification, understands the danger, and understands the escape. That's what I'm going to be teaching as part of this afternoon's course and tomorrow, Monday's course, where I'm going to be teaching the escape. I'm going to teach you how to train your mind through the Eightfold Path to escape away from these discontent feelings, where through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, you can transform your mind so that it no longer experiences this up and down and up and down. You can just always be happy every single day, every single moment. Doesn't matter what's happening in your life. Even if your mom dies, you can maintain your happiness. The reason why you're sad or sorrowful or grieving when your mom dies is not because you love her, but it's because the mind is holding on and craving for her to be permanent, when in reality she is impermanent. Because she was born, she has to die. Right? She's going to die, or she has died, right? That is not the problem. That is just impermanence. Everything around us is impermanent. As long as your mind is craving permanence, then when you experience impermanence, the mind doesn't like that. So you can get to the point where despite the fact that your mom has died, you can maintain your joy. You're not happy because your mom died. You're happy despite the fact that she's died, because your mind understands impermanence, and you understand that mom was born, so therefore she needed to die, right? But right now, at this point in your life, that would probably be a very hard thing for you to do, because you don't yet understand the escape, and you haven't trained your mind to be able to train it so that it can always be peaceful and always be joyful. So the Buddha is explaining that, yes, these 6 sense bases is something that you need to be able to understand, and be able to understand the gratification, the danger, and the escape. And that's part of getting to enlightenment, is understanding that your mind is experiencing this agreeable contact and disagreeable contact. And now when you see agreeable contact coming through these sense bases, you get pleasant feelings. But when you have disagreeable contact, you get painful feelings. But you'll get to the point, if you train your mind deep enough, where it's not agreeable or disagreeable. It's just contact. You're just experiencing some kind of contact through the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, or the mind itself. But right now, you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, so you see things as agreeable or disagreeable. And that's why your mind's experiencing either pleasant feelings or painful feelings. What the Buddha shares down here is, he says, a noble disciple, meaning this person who studied the teachings very closely, who understands the 6 sense bases, among other things that this person understands and has trained their mind, they are now a stream enterer. What this is the first stage of enlightenment. There's 4 stages of enlightenment. The Buddha referred to them as stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and arahant. The mind's actually enlightened when you get to that 4th stage of enlightenment as an arahant. That's where you fully purified your mind of the 10 fetters. There's 10 individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. He referred to them as fetters, because during his lifetime, if you were a criminal and they were trying to keep you confined to a certain area, they would attach a shackle and a chain and a ball around your ankle, and they would keep you in a field, and this would keep you confined to a certain area. So he referred to these pollutions as fetters because it's keeping you trapped in the unenlightened state where you keep experiencing anger and sadness and frustration over and over and over and over again. And one of those fetters is called sensual desire. And that's what this whole book is focusing on, is training the mind to understand that you have this sensual desire in your mind where you're longing, yearning, looking for some external thing to provide lasting satisfaction. The mind wants to be permanently comfortable, when in reality, this just isn't possible because of the universal truth of impermanence, that everything around you is constantly changing. But if your mind is craving for things to be permanent, when you experience impermanence, your mind won't like that. And then he goes on and he says this person who's in the first stage of enlightenment, they're no longer bound to the netherworld, meaning they're not going to be reborn into the lower realms of existence like hell, animal realm, or afflicted spirits. He says that this person is fixed in destination, because once you get to the first stage of enlightenment, you are fixed, meaning you will get to enlightenment. It's only a matter of time, either in this life or some future life. And that's what he says here, fixed in destination with enlightenment as his destination. So if you get to the point where you're in the first stage of enlightenment, you will get to enlightenment. And that's why we call it a stream enterer, because just like a log enters the stream and it's going to eventually get to the ocean, that when you enter into the first stage of enlightenment, you're going to eventually get to the enlightened mental state. It's only a matter of time. Just like that log entering the stream is going to eventually get to the ocean. So do you guys have any questions on this chapter? Remember here, if you guys could use the microphones, and anybody online, if you could put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or raise your hand in Zoom, that would be great. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Okay, I'm just going to check online here and see if we have any questions. Okay. Good morning to whomever that, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her name. Noriko, good morning. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere, so let's move to the next one. By the way, what you guys have here in these books, again, they're available to you at no cost, is you have the original words of the Buddha. You have a reference which takes you back to the original source teachings in the Pali Canon, those 45 large volumes of books. Then you've got words from me that are helping you understand how to implement these into your day-to-day life. And I'm giving you guidance about how to do that. And here you can see this table that is helping you to see the internal sense bases, which is what we just mentioned, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, in the mind. And then there's something that the Buddha refers to as the external sense base. The external sense base is whatever the internal sense base is coming in contact with. So the eyes come in contact with a form. There's a physical form. Like I can see each one of your bodies right now. That's a physical form, right? And then the ears come in contact with sounds. The nose comes in contact with odors. The tongue comes in contact with flavors. The body comes in contact with physical objects. And the mind comes in contact with mental objects like ideas, thoughts, things like that, right? And what the mind is doing is it wants all of this contact to be permanently agreeable. The mind wants everything you see through the eyes, every single form you see, it wants it to be pleasurable and agreeable to you. So if you walk down the street and you see a parent holding their young child's hand and they're walking across the street, it's like, look at that beautiful situation. That little boy, little girl's holding their mom's hand. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so lovely, right? And you might get all these conditioned pleasant feelings based on the condition of seeing this agreeable thing, this agreeable form. It causes these pleasant feelings in the mind. But now you turn the corner and you walk down the street a little bit further and you see a parent slap their child across the face. That might be disagreeable to you, right? And now because that's disagreeable, you get angry, you get frustrated, right? This is your mind craving permanently agreeable contact. We're not talking about what's wise or unwise, right? Because in my opinion, it's unwise to hit anybody, especially a child, right? But what the Buddha is explaining to you is this is what your mind's doing. It's wanting this permanently agreeable contact. I already gave you an example with sounds. With odors, say you walk down the street and you walk past a flower shop and you smell the flowers. Smells so great. Oh, smells lovely. But now a few more steps, you smell the sewer and you smell this odor coming out of the sewer. Maybe you're repulsed by that because it's a disagreeable odor to you. But if you understand that this is impermanence, that you can't smell permanently agreeable things, it's like, oh, wow, that's a beautiful smell coming out of the flower shop. Wow, that's quite nice. But you don't have to get pleasant feelings within your mind. So now when you walk a couple more steps and you smell the sewer, it's like, whoa, that's pretty strong. Let's keep walking, right? We don't need to stay here. We can just keep walking. But we don't need to get frustrated. We don't need to get agitated or annoyed. That's not helping anything. So we can just maintain our contentedness and our peacefulness, knowing that this odor from the sewer, it's impermanent. We can just keep walking. But that smell coming out of the flower shop, that is impermanent too. We're not going to always smell something that is agreeable. And your mind's doing this with all these other things. Certain foods are agreeable to you. Certain foods are disagreeable to you. This is because of the craving, the central desire in the mind. Certain physical objects, like certain fabrics coming in contact with the body, might be agreeable to you. Certain ones might be disagreeable. And then certain mental objects. This is like thoughts or ideas from the past. You might have things that happened in the past that are very painful for you. And now when you think about them in the present moment, you experience painful feelings based on those things that happened in the past. Or maybe there's pleasurable things that happened in the past. And now in the present moment, you're getting pleasant feelings based on those things. These are still conditioned feelings. So you need to be observant of the mind. And the Buddha gives you through the Eightfold Path what you should do in those situations. When the pleasant feelings are arising, when the painful feelings are arising. That's not what we're going into today about what to do. This right here so far, I've just been talking about the problem and helping you understand what's actually occurring within the mind. But when he teaches you the Eightfold Path, which is the escape, he's teaching you the solution and helping you understand how to transform this so that your mind doesn't do this. So you've got these words for me to be able to help you understand what the mind is doing and how to implement these teachings into your day-to-day life. So would somebody like to read this chapter? I saw you got a microphone. I saw some other people got microphones. You would like to read it, ma'am? Oh, you have a question. Sure, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I'm Clara. I wonder for the permanence part. For example, you mentioned happiness. After training our mind to learn of the impermanence of stuff, does it make you feel less excited? Or because it's gonna go anyway? Or do you treasure it more because you know it's impermanent? So does our senses dial down or up, or we can control that?
Yeah, you'll be able to have mental discipline and control of your mind so that your mind no longer experiences conditional excitement, right? So like when you get excited now, you'll get excited temporarily, but then it fades away. And you ultimately end up in sadness or frustration or some other discontent feeling. But by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind is uplifted and it's in that mental state permanently. Your mind is cheerful and bright and glad, but it's not the type of excitement that you're used to where maybe like you're bouncing off the walls. That's like your mind's unstable or unsteady. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's cheerful, glad, bright, radiant, uplifted, and it's in that mental state all the time, but it's stable and steady. So your mind is calm and relaxed, but yet attentive and alert. You're crisp. Oftentimes when we think about calm and relaxed, we think about, like you're just so completely relaxed. But you can think about the enlightened mind as calm and relaxed, but attentive and alert. It's crisp because it no longer has those pollutions that are in your mind. They've been uprooted. So now your mind's performing optimally.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome. You have a question? Sure.
Okay, because I was in a state of life that wasn't crave for anything, because I was having really good Japanese food with my friends, and we weren't really excited about it. And we were talking about things in our life, we wasn't really yearning for it. But in this state of time, I was yearning for maybe traveling here and doing great sports. and especially when artificial intelligence is popular right now, the ups and downs of life makes me feel alive. So I know the theory of Buddha, of course, but I'm wondering about the philosophy behind it, because I really want myself to have that craving to make me feel alive every day.
Yeah, I can share with you that you don't need the ups and downs to feel alive. That might be what you're thinking right now, but for an enlightened being, their mind is always uplifted and they know they're alive. They feel wonderful. They're enjoying life thoroughly. But for an unenlightened being, they'll enjoy certain aspects of their life, but other certain aspects of their life, they don't like it. They despise what's going on in their day-to-day life. It's frustrating. It's agitating. It's annoyed. So if you continue to stay in the unenlightened state, which is your choice, then you're going to experience these ups and downs. But you can get to the point where your mind is always uplifted and there's brightness and radiance and joy. You don't need to feel ups and downs in order to feel alive, so to speak. You'll actually enjoy life much more thoroughly as an enlightened being. Because sometimes when people hear me talk about enlightenment, they think that you're just kind of like dull or lethargic or kind of numb to things. That's not the way that the enlightened mental state is. It's hard for an individual who's unenlightened to understand what enlightenment is, especially just in a short little time frame like this, because it's kind of like if you've never had chocolate ice cream before and I sat here and tried to explain to you what chocolate ice cream tastes like, it would be very hard for you to understand what chocolate ice cream tastes like until you actually taste it, and then you'll know for yourself. So as you learn about what enlightenment is, because that's part of the teaching that we share in all of our foundational courses, is to help you understand what enlightenment is. Once you understand what it is, and then you start making your way towards it, and you start seeing the qualities of enlightenment shining through, you'll see that that's much more beneficial and much more enjoyable than anything you've ever experienced when you were in the unenlightened state. You just have to experience it for yourself so that you'll know. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
When you speaking like two flavors of the flowers, right? Should we like amplify the pleasant flavor and minimize the bad flavor?
Part of the Eightfold Path, there's many steps in there, but part of the Eightfold Path, what the Buddha is teaching you to do is cut off and let go of those conditional feelings. So when you're walking past the flower shop and you smell that pleasant feeling, when you smell that certain odor and your mind starts to get this pleasant feeling based on the condition of the flowers, what the Buddha teaches you to do is have awareness of mind. And when you see that pleasant feeling, that conditioned pleasant feeling arising, you cut that off and let it go. So essentially your mind is getting ready to get this conditioned pleasant feeling and you cut it off and let it go. You don't allow the mind to form that conditioned feeling. And when you do this enough, same thing like if you walk past the sewer and you're noticing a painful feeling arising and you cut that off and let that go, if you train your mind to not form conditioned feelings, then your mind will get to the unconditioned mental state where it's just always happy. It's always joyful. You smell the flowers. Wow, that's a really great smell. Wow, that's really good. And you walk past the sewer. Wow, that's a really strong smell. I think I'm going to keep walking. Right? But you don't need to get angry or frustrated or annoyed. But that's what the unenlightened mind will do when it's forming these feelings. So you need to be able to see the conditioned pleasant feelings as just as much a part of the problem as the painful ones. Because it makes sense to cut off and let go of anger and frustration and sadness and grief and despair and all these others. But you need to be able to cut off and let go of the conditional pleasant feelings. Because if you allow your mind to get so happy and excited, say based on getting a new job. If you get a new job and you get so happy and excited, well, 3 years later, when the company fires you or they lay you off or the company goes out of business, you'll be sad. You'll be frustrated. You'll be agitated or annoyed. And it goes all the way back to 3 years prior where you allowed your mind to get so happy, where you need to understand this job is impermanent. It is not permanent. You're not going to be working there permanently for the rest of your life. So when you get that new job, sweet, got a brand new job, new title, new responsibilities, new salary. Hey, this is going to be nice. Have new friends, new coworkers. Excellent. This is going to be great. But you train your mind not to get conditional feelings based on it. So now you go to work, you apply your effort, you make wise decisions, you do a good job, you start getting promotions. Wow, this is wonderful. But at some point, this job is going to come to an end. And if you keep that in mind and you train your mind not to form conditioned feelings, when the job's over, the company goes out of business or whatever happens, hey, job's no longer available, of course, because it's impermanent. Let me go find a new job. No big deal. But if you crave and you long and you want this job to be permanent, when it's over, you'll be frustrated. You'll be agitated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. So you can train your mind to no longer form these conditioned feelings. You're not suppressing your feelings or pushing them down. What you're doing is you're transforming the mind to no longer form these conditioned feelings so that way you can get to the unconditioned happiness. Whereas if you have a job, great, that's wonderful, but you're not basing your feelings on that. So now when you don't have a job, great, wonderful, I'm unemployed. You know what? I've got enough money. Let me take my time for a few weeks or a few months. Let me find another job and I can just take my time and I can be peaceful. I don't need to have to feel anxiety or stress or worry. You don't have to do that. But that's what the mind does do because of its lack of training, because the mind hasn't actually been fully transformed. When you're unemployed, for example, you might be stressed or feeling anxiety or something like this. But you can completely opt out of this through training your mind. But it's just some wisdom that you need to learn in order to be able to do that.
So it seems like you should treat like the two flavors or the good, bad one are the same.
Yeah, and don't even think of it as good or bad, right? Just think about it as it's an odor. It's an odor. Wow, that's really interesting odor. You don't have to think of it as good or bad or right or wrong or agreeable or disagreeable. It's just an odor. And at the end of the day, it's impermanent. That odor coming out of the flower shop, it's impermanent. The odor coming from the sewer, that's impermanent too. No need to base my inner feelings on that particular thing, because then your feelings are going to be impermanent too. So if you're looking to get to permanent happiness, you need to learn how to not base your inner feelings on impermanent things.
Yeah, because the past wisdom I've been taught before is like you need to amplify the pleasurement. You need to amplify the things you have and minimize the sadness you don't have it. But today I wish you train the same. But I have a question. If we don't like amplify the pleasure, the thing we have, like grateful, will we lose the passionate or the love because we treat all in peace?
The material objects that you have, if you keep basing your feelings on these things and you amplify the pleasantness, that means the painfulness is going to be amplified too, because that pleasantness that you're experiencing because of that thing is impermanent. So if you get really excited and happy about this new car that you just bought, well, then when it gets in a car accident or someone scratches your car, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be agitated or annoyed. So if you amplify the pleasantness based on a material object, that material object is impermanent, and ultimately you're going to end up in the painful feelings. So it's really unwise to actually do that. You can train your mind to no longer do that, and now that's where you can get to what's called liberation, where your mind's now free. Like right now, if your parents say something pleasant to you and they give you a compliment about your life, you probably get so excited. But then when they say something degrading or disparaging to you, you probably get angry or frustrated. This is the mind craving permanence, wanting to hear permanently agreeable things from your parents. And you're not going to hear permanently agreeable things from your parents. It's just not possible. So this is the whole problem that the mind is experiencing, and you can escape all of that.
Thank you. That really lets me.
Yeah, pleased to help you.
Jen.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I feel it difficult to understand the connection between the permanent enlightenment and the actions. So I just felt like sometimes the anger or dislike, inefficiency caused you to take actions. For example, right, the example you give, you see people like the parents like slapping the children, you might interfere. Or like even like bad cases, like a husband or doing some bad things to the woman, you might go and interfere. And or you observe the inefficiency in your life, and then that's why like the technology came and the AI came. So it's maybe caused because like you don't like the current situation, not because you're happy. That's how I find it. So
yeah, I can answer your question for you. So if you base your decision making on your feelings and emotions, that means your decision making isn't going to be 100% wise. So therefore, it's going to lead to unwholesome results in your life. So if you get angry about something and now you start making decisions through that anger, it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. Because think about times when you've been angry. Think about the situations that you've been in. Think about the things that you've said to people that you regretted later. And now the relationship got damaged or it's completely over because of the anger that you experienced. But if you can maintain your calmness and your composure, and now you can make wise decisions of what you should or shouldn't be doing in the world, now you can produce wholesome results. But as long as your mind is shaken up with any of these discontent feelings, like anger being one of them, that's going to produce unwise decision making. And now when you're putting out unwise decisions, you're going to experience unwholesome results. This is called gamma, or some people call it karma. This is cause and effect, or action and results. And what you would like to get to is where you're making 100% wise decisions for an extended period of time. But if your mind is shaken up with discontent feelings, you're not going to be able to make 100% wise decisions. Even those pleasant feelings. Have you guys ever been so excited you like tripped and fell, or like dropped something and broke it? I don't know about you guys, but I did that when I was growing up. So excited. One time I had this bird. I had this new bird, and it was a pet, and it was in a cage. And I came outside, and I was so excited. And I was like, "Look, everybody! Look at my new bird! Look at my new bird!" I was so excited, and I tripped and fell down the stairs. The cage flew open. The bird flew away, and then I was crying and upset. Right? I was upset because my bird had flown away, where I was so excited when I had the bird, but then when I didn't have it, I was sad and upset. That's the craving, desire, attachment. So even when your mind is so excited, you're going to make unwise decisions, because I wasn't looking at the steps. I wasn't walking calmly down the steps. So now I tripped and fell, and now there goes the bird. And I don't suggest anybody have a bird as a pet, but back then that's what I did. We can let those beings go be free and live their life on their own. But nonetheless, you can see what I'm sharing here is that your mind right now, you might think that your fear or your anger, your frustration is going to motivate decision making. Yeah, it is going to motivate decision making, but those decisions are going to be unwise because they're based in the mind being shaken up, and it's going to lead to these unwholesome results or unwholesome gamma. But when you can maintain your calmness and composure, your steadiness, your stability of your mind, now you can use your wisdom to make wise decisions, and that's going to produce wholesome results or wholesome gamma. Anything else you guys would like to ask? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Yeah, I would like to ask about you're talking about all these six senses that come from the desires, expectations, cravings, but all these feelings we will have many, many times throughout the day. If you're talking about desires, I crave for a noodle, or what to eat later, or even I want to get a bigger car. So how to cut down all these desires and cravings, and even though I know that these cravings or desires are not right, but if you don't have this desire or goal, does it make you a better person, or that kind? So I feel this feeling is quite contradicting. Even when I feel I want to buy a bigger car, I feel at the same time I'm guilty about this feeling.
Yeah. So this is the problem, is the conditional feelings that are being experienced in the mind. So when we talk about craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations, it's important for you to understand that that's not what a goal is. Okay, what oftentimes people are doing is they're calling something that is a craving, desire, attachment, they're calling it a goal. If you get to your goal and you're really happy, but if you don't get to your goal, you're angry or frustrated or sad or feeling guilty or shameful, that's not a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as a goal. The mind is saying, if I get what I want, I will be happy. But if I don't get what I want, I'll be sad or frustrated. That's what's called a craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing or yearning, basing its inner feelings on whether you get this thing or not. And then the other side of that is if you were all the way on the other side and you never pursued anything in life and you were just dull and lazy and lethargic, you're not going to be peaceful and joyful there either. So what the Buddha is teaching you to do is come to this middle way where you gradually pursue things through your goals, your objectives, and your interests. But what a true goal is a goal is something that if you attain it or not, you can maintain your contentedness. You can maintain your joy. So if you're working towards a true goal and say you're 80% of the way there and you look at it and you're like, I didn't meet my goal. You can maintain your contentedness. You can maintain your joy. And now you make wise decisions. Well, I can extend my timeline and give myself more time to get to this goal. That's one option. The second option is I can add more resources in order to try to help me accomplish this goal. That's a second option. Or the third option is you can look at your goal and be like, you know what? 80% is just fine. I don't need to go all the way. I'm completely fine with this 80%. And now you can maintain your joy. You can maintain your contentedness. That's what a true goal is that you're not forming your inner feelings on whether you accomplish it or not. But if you're forming your inner feelings on whether you accomplish this thing or not, that's actually a craving, desire, attachment. And that's what a lot of people are doing is they're out there in the world chasing their cravings, desires, attachments. I want more money. I want a bigger car. I want a bigger house. I want this. I want this. I want that. And you go around and you chase all of that. If you get it, you'll be happy. And if you don't get it, you'll be sad or frustrated. But even if you get it, you're ultimately going to want more. Because think about your salary. You might have started your first job, say $30,000 a year. And you were like, oh my goodness, I am so rich. Look at all this money. Oh, this is so great. You were so excited. But then after about 6 months or a year or so, that kind of wore off. And you're like, I want $50,000. And now you were chasing that. And then you got to the 50,000 and you were so happy temporarily. But then that faded away. And now you wanted 80,000. And now you chase that. So even when you're chasing after these cravings, desires, attachments, when you get what you want, you'll be happy for a period of time, but then it's going to fade away and you're going to want more and more and more and more. It's like an unquenchable thirst. So there's another way where you can come to the middle and you can gradually pursue career growth. You can gradually pursue wealth. You can gradually pursue improvement in your life, but learning how to not form your feelings on whether you do that or not. So whether you're working towards a certain salary or a certain career or a certain objective, you can train your mind to work towards that wisely and gradually, and then understand it's going to be gradual progression to this career goal, and then just gradually make your way to it. And then you can maintain your happiness and contentedness regardless. Maybe halfway through getting to your goal, the company goes out of business, and now you can maintain your joy. You can just go to another company and continue your progress. Whereas if you pursue things in life with craving, desire, attachment, you're ultimately going to end up in the painful feelings. And that's what an unenlightened being experiences, but you don't have to experience that. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you're motivated, you have ambition, you have enthusiasm about what it is that you're doing in the world. Like for some of you guys, you might be here in Thailand on vacation, and you might be having a great time. Oh my goodness, it's so fun being on vacation, on a holiday, you're away from work, you're away from home. It's so great, right? But then when it's time to go back home, it's like, oh man, I got to go back. Oh, I don't want to go back, right? Because this life that you've created is full of craving, desire, attachment. You get happy sometimes, you get angry sometimes, you get frustrated sometimes. In the life that you've created, it's like, I don't want to go back to that life. That's because the mind has created this life for yourself that you're not necessarily pleased with. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll thoroughly enjoy whatever it is that you're doing. When you're on vacation, you'll have a great time, but when you're in your actual life, you'll be having a great time there too. You'll be enjoying yourself at all times. I saw some other microphones back there. You guys have more questions?
I was wondering, the purpose of to chasing the enlightenment is to chasing a permanent feeling or calmness, right?
If you're making your way to enlightenment, you're not chasing it. You will never get to enlightenment through chasing it. You need to gradually pursue it, step by step. It took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment. So it's going to take you, it's going to take you some time. It's not a 1 day thing, a 1 week thing, a 1 month thing, or even a 1 year thing. It's going to be a multi-year journey, but gradually, slowly but surely, you make your way to it, but you don't chase it. You'll never get to enlightenment by chasing it.
But the purpose to enlightenment, I would think, is just another desire.
It doesn't
and what
have,
is the
oh,
difference?
sorry.
What is the difference between the desire to the enlightenment and the desire to, let's say, a car or a fancy house?
Sure. So this is where it's important to understand language and how we're using it within these teachings, that a desire is a longing and a yearning. And if you get it, you'll be experiencing happiness, excitement. And if you don't get it, you'll get the painful feelings like anger, sadness, or frustration. So a desire is how the mind is longing and yearning for something. But you don't have to progress through life that way. You can actually work towards a goal, objective, or interest. Let me give you this example so you can understand what a craving, desire, attachment is. Let's just say I have a liter of water and I'm in the car and I'm driving to a hiking trail. And now I get out of the car and I forget my water in the car and I'm out on the hiking trail about 30 minutes down the trail and I realize, I don't have my water. I need to go get my water. And now you hurry back to the car and you sling open the door and you grab your water. Water. And maybe you sprained your ankle on the way to the car and now you can't even go on the hike because you injured your ankle, right? This is the mind longing, yearning. And when you didn't have your water, your mind was all shaken up by it, right? But you can also be out on the trail, 30 minutes down the trail and realize, I forgot my water. You know what? I'm going to be out here for about 6 or 8 hours. I should probably go get my water. And now you just calmly make your way back to your car. You get your water and then you take it with you out on the trail. So the same exact situation is occurring, that somebody forgot their water. But in the first example, someone had a craving, a longing or yearning. And when they had what they wanted, they were happy. And when they didn't have it, they were experiencing the shaken up mind, right? The other person, the second one, their mind could be calm regardless, whether they had their water or they didn't. So when you're working towards enlightenment or any other aspect of your life, you can do that as a goal, objective, or interest where you're gradually working towards it and you train your mind not to base your feelings on that. But right now, as it sits today, you don't know how to do that. Your mind hasn't been trained to do that. What your mind has been doing all throughout your life is if you get what you want, you get happy. And if you don't get what you want, you get sad or frustrated or some other painful feeling. But what I'm sharing with you is there is a better way of life. There's a better way for you to live life. You don't have to live life that way where your mind's going up and down and up and down and up and down. So like if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend and they're with you, you'll be so happy and excited. But then when they go on a business trip and they're away for 2 weeks, you'll feel miserable. You'll feel sad. You'll feel lonely and bored. You don't have to live your life this way, but that is the way that the mind lives in the unenlightened state. And the mind's misunderstanding will think that that's love. They'll think that the reason why they feel miserable is because they love this person. That's not the love. That's the attachment. That's the mind craving permanence and wanting this person to be with you permanently. Your feelings are attached to this person. And if you have that person with you, you'll feel happy. And if you don't have that person with you, you'll feel sad or miserable. And you can get to the point where when you're with that person, you have a really enjoyable time. It's really fun to be with this person. But when they're away, you can also have fun, right? You don't need to not have enjoyment when this person is away. So my wife, she's getting ready to leave on Monday. She's going to be going to the USA for 2 months. And me and my son are going to be in Thailand all by ourselves for 2 months, right? Because we live here. My wife's Thai. And she's done this before. But we're not going to miss her. We're not going to feel lonely. We're not going to feel bored. It's not because we don't love her. Of course we love my son loves his mom. Of course I love my wife. I love all of you. I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well, right? I have a genuine interest in seeing my wife be well. I love her, right? But I'm not attached to her. When she's here, oh, it's wonderful. We thoroughly enjoy spending time with mom. We go out and do things. We spend time together. It's great. But she's not permanent. She is impermanent. So when she goes away for 2 months, we're going to have fun then too. We're going to have a great time, right? So you can get to the point where your mind's able to do that. But again, right now, if you haven't trained your mind, it's not going to be able to do that. And it's not a quick fix. It's not like you snap your fingers and you instantly experience this. But as you gradually train your mind, you can experience improvement in the way that your mind functions. And this is the better way of life that the Buddha taught. Again, he didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship. He didn't teach prayer. Those things aren't going to transform your mind to experiencing this enlightened mental state. But he instead taught you this path of how to purify your mind, uproot the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings, and that's what's going to allow you to experience this better way of life and this improved way of your mind functioning. Yes, sir.
Where do we draw the line between wanting to satisfy a desire, a craving, and wanting to make our external environment better?
Sure. So when there's craving, desire, attachment in the mind, there's essentially 2 ways to eliminate it. You can cut it off and let it go, meaning like restrain the mind. Kind of like if you're riding a horse, you can restrain the mind, right? But you can also fulfill a craving, desire, attachment in order to extinguish it. I'll give you an example of this. Okay, so say I'm restraining the mind. Say you have this urge to go out and have sex with somebody outside of your existing relationship. If you have an existing relationship that you're in and your mind has this urge to go have sex with someone else, you know that's going to cause harm in your relationship. You need to restrain your mind. You need to pull that back like you're pulling the reins of a horse, because this is a unwholesome thing that's going to produce harm in your relationship. If you're interested in having sex with someone else, it's best to end your current relationship and then go have sex with this person if that's what you're going to do. But if you maintain this relationship and then go out and have sex with someone else, you're now going to experience unwholesome results because of that. So in that situation, it would be wise to restrain your mind and pull it back. Cut off that craving, desire, attachment, and don't allow your mind to go forward with that. But there are some cravings that you can fulfill in order to extinguish it. Let's just say I have a craving, a longing, a yearning to go to the Philippines, and I've always wanted to go to the Philippines. I've never been, and I always wanted to go. Well, I could just go. Right? I could cut that off and let it go, and I could restrain the mind, or I could just go to the Philippines, check it out, travel around, look around, and then when I'm done, it's like, all right, I fulfilled that craving. But you need to be really careful with that, because then it's going to be the next one and the next one and the next one. It's not just the Philippines, it's Japan and Korea and Uzbekistan and Brazil. And next thing you know, you're just bouncing all around the world, exhausting your resources. So if there's a certain craving, desire, attachment that isn't going to harm other beings, you might decide to fulfill that, like going to visit the Philippines. So this is where you can look at the line and decide for yourself, in what situation would it be wise for me to restrain my mind and cut off and let go? Or in what situations can I fulfill these cravings? And what you would like to look at is whether or not it's going to cause harm to other beings or not. And in this situation, visiting the Philippines isn't going to cause any harm to others. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Yeah, I have a question. It's all about when I'm listening to all the points and all the thoughts about how we're gonna dealing with the desires and craving. So my question is about, I was wondering about the experience of me growing up, because right now I'm getting to my 30s this year, and all of my friends, that we are kind of like the same type of people, that we were trying so hard when we were child, and we are doing the examinations. We get to
good universities and we are getting the good jobs. So I was thinking that how I get to the point, how I get to the life that I'm right now is because I have been so many desires, and every time being so jealous about others being so great, getting the good points at the examinations. I feel like it's because I've been pushing myself so hard because of the motivations from my angers, a lot of desires that I push myself to the point that I am right now. But when I get to the good life, well, I try so hard from all the motivations that from my desires and cravings. Mm-hmm. Now I'm interested in the peace. So that's the main reason why I'm here. So I just curious about why the changes of this, and I feel like a lot of people, we are also during the situation or dealing with the situation of what we have right now, because right now we have so many good things, the good life, and now we want inner peace. So my question, this is my first question, and another question.
Can I answer your first one first?
Sorry?
Can I answer your first question
Yeah,
first?
sure. Thank you.
So going through life like what you just described, because I used to do that as well, it's like carrying around a burden, that you carry this burden of constantly trying to fulfill this unquenchable thirst. The mind always wants what it doesn't have. So the mind is chasing and chasing and chasing. It's chasing more and more degrees, more and more money, more and more this. So that's what the mind can see very clearly. You guys can probably see how the mind chases. But then the mind can also see very clearly over here where you're dull and lethargic and doing nothing at all. That's not what the Buddha is teaching you. But sometimes when we talk about eliminating craving, desire, attachment, and restraining the mind, people immediately think that, oh, that would be very dull, very lethargic, and I would be very lazy and unmotivated and not really producing any beneficial results in my life. That's not what the Buddha is teaching you. He's teaching you this middle way, which is very challenging for the unenlightened mind to be able to see because you aren't familiar with it. You don't have the wisdom of it. You haven't practiced it before, where you gradually work towards goals, objectives, or interests without craving, desire, attachment. Because when you're out there chasing and chasing and chasing, you'll get to the end of your day and you'll probably feel exhausted. Just in the way you're talking, you sound a bit tired. I don't know if you are or not, but it sounds like you've had a very active life and that you've really been chasing after things a lot. And this can feel very exhausting and very tiring to do that. So when you can pursue things slowly and steadily, gradually working towards things where you're not doing it because you want these pleasant feelings, but instead you're making decisions wisely to move your life forward, you can do this without getting exhausted, without getting tired. One of the qualities of an enlightened being is they don't get tired. They don't get exhausted. They can maintain their energy all day long because they're not out there chasing. Whereas if you're out there chasing, if you get what you want in a particular day, all the things that you're chasing, you'll get to the end of your day, you'll be like, wow, this was such a wonderful day. But if you get to the end of your day and you didn't get your cravings fulfilled, you'll say, oh, this was such a horrible day. This was a hectic day. That's because your mind's not getting what you want. But if you get rid of that longing, yearning, and you're just gradually making your way towards your goals and objectives, every day is a wonderful day. Every day is a great day. You don't feel exhausted and tired. So that's what the Buddha is teaching you how to be able to do, is gradually walk through life, making wise decisions based on moving your life forward and creating the ideal life for yourself without forming your inner feelings on whether you get one particular thing or another. Sounds like your mic turned off.
So my next question is, does human born this way, like all of the people? Because I feel like when we were child, we always want something. We want something sweet because because the sweet make us feel so good. And then we were taught and training ourselves that, okay, sweet is not good for our health. Is that all of the human being like this?
yes, every single being that is born has been born into the world with craving, desire, attachment. That's why we come out of our mom's womb crying. We're discontent right from the beginning. As soon as there's birth, there's sorrow, grief, pain, displeasure, and despair. Because we're inside the womb of our mom's stomach, everything's great. Oh my goodness, we got all this space to ourselves. We got food being pumped in on the umbilical cord. We're hanging out like, hey, it's cool in here. Like, we're having a good old time. And next thing you know, we get pushed out into the world, or we have surgery that brings us out into the world. Well, we experience impermanence in that situation because we're in the womb hanging out, craving permanence, thinking that this is permanent. And when we get pushed out into the world or brought out into the world, right away, we start crying because we're craving permanence. We don't like this impermanence. So another way to say that the human mind craves permanence is to say that it does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. Think about every time the things in your life have been changing. That was some of the most difficult times in your life, even if those were decisions that you made. If you chose to move from one location to another, or you chose to move from one job to another, or you had a certain relationship that changed in your life, like maybe you went from one boyfriend or girlfriend to another, or one husband or wife to another. This was a very challenging time in your life because the mind doesn't like change in the unenlightened state. But you can get to the point where you understand that change is normal because we live in an impermanent world. So yes, we are born with craving, and we're also born with what's called ignorance or unknowing of true reality, a lack of wisdom. The things that I'm sharing with you guys, your mind doesn't understand these things. So that's why you guys have so many questions. It's like, hold on a second, isn't fear or anger good? Like, doesn't that motivate us? Or, isn't happiness good because we get what we want and we feel so happy and elated? The mind doesn't understand. It has this lack of wisdom. So that's why the Buddha didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, because he's teaching you to cultivate wisdom about how this being functions, about how this mind functions, about how this being functions. That's what the 6 sense bases are all about, so that now you can go out into the world and you can function peacefully and harmoniously with the beings around you. But as long as you lack wisdom, meaning the mind has this ignorance or this confusion or misunderstanding about the world, you will go out into the world and function in unwise ways, and it's going to produce difficulties and struggles in your day-to-day life. Okay, any other questions? No other questions? Well, normally what we do is we go through however many chapters that we have, and oftentimes we study like 3, 4, 5 chapters. In the evenings when I teach this at home, because I teach it tonight at 9 p.m. from home, we do all 10 chapters. But here you guys had a lot of questions. So this is typically where I end the class. So I'm not attached. I didn't have a desire. I wasn't longing, yearning to study 3, 4, 5 chapters. So the fact that we studied 1 and we're going to finish right here, I'm fine with that. Are you guys fine with that? You fine? Okay. It seems like you guys have learned a lot. See, when you don't have a craving, you can maintain your happiness, right? Whereas if you wanted to study 10 chapters today and we only did 1, you'd be frustrated. You'd be irritated. And this is where the teachings of the Buddha are independently verifiable. You can verify for yourself that when you don't have craving, desire, attachment, you can maintain your peacefulness and your joy. But when you have craving, when you have desire, when you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings. When you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings. So now it sounds like you guys have pleasant feelings because you didn't, or I'm sorry, it sounds like you have unconditioned joy, or perhaps you have peacefulness in your mind because you didn't have a craving for things to be a certain way. So I'm going to end class here by just thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your great questions and your discussion. This was wonderful to spend time with you guys. If you'd like to learn more, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, I'm going to go into the very first teachings of the Buddha, helping you guys to understand that. And then on Monday, I'm going to start a course which is called the Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment course. Sunday, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., I'm going to be teaching chapter 20 from this book, Chapter 20 is called Animal to Human, the Evolution of Our Consciousness. What I'm going to be doing is teaching in a more traditional format where I'm going to be helping you to understand how your human mind has come from an animal existences and it's been conditioned to function very much like an animal. Even though you're human, you're now in a human state, you're no longer an animal, your mind will oftentimes function like an animal in the unenlightened state. So part of what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is shedding your animalistic instincts so that you can become a better and better human being. But again, your mind won't know how to do that without the wisdom. So that's why tomorrow I'm going to show you how your mind has evolved from these animalistic existences to where you are today, and you can shed these animalistic instincts, becoming a better and better human being, functioning in the world with others harmoniously. So if you'd like to learn that, that'll be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So again, thank you all for joining. Whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Zai jian.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.